Hello, it's Dr. Kiran Sodha here. I have a very special guest on today. It's Fareeha J, Abki dietitian. She's an award-winning dietitian and she specializes in South Asian diets and also in type 2 diabetes. And over the last decade, she has amassed nearly 1 million followers online across all social media platforms. Fareeha, hello and welcome in. I'd love to know what exciting things you've been doing this week, especially around some of the work that you've been doing.
I've recently launched my own program on diabetes education for South Asians. And this week was the first day of the program for my third cohort. First two cohorts have been running really successfully. I was in two minds whether this will be a success or not, but because the results were so good for the first two of the cohorts, I decided to run the third one just before Christmas. Usually people think that we'll wait for next year, for the coming year, January, but I thought we'd just make a start in December. And I've got a very good group, so very busy in that. And this group is really engaging. They're constantly sending me messages. So I'm very busy with this group now.
That's really interesting because often I think as health professionals and people supporting people with diabetes remission, we're thinking about festive season as a time to actually slow down. Because we're thinking perhaps actually we might not even get much more interest from clients who want to join. But you started before the festive season. Now, of course, there's different sort of festive seasons going on across the world. So I'd love you just to tell me a little bit more about that. What made you decide that this was the right time to run that third program?
There was a technical thinking behind it, to be honest, Kiran, because yes, it is the festive period. But when I'm working with South Asians, I have to look at the religious festivals as well. And the next coming up festival, it's more of a religious thing, Ramadan. Ramadan is starting end of February. So when I was managing the timings, I wanted to do something before Ramadan, but which lasts for 12 weeks. And because I was on holiday, when I came back, this was the best time for me to start so that I can finish this 12 weeks just before Ramadan. So all my clients are ready to get into Ramadan as well.
Absolutely. I think we forget when we're in England that the whole calendar cycle seems to follow Christian-based festive seasons, but obviously there's so many going on around the world. And that's really interesting that you're doing it away from Ramadan. Is it because people have other commitments and their food pattern changes, or are there any other reasons why you're choosing not to do it around that period?
Yes, Kiran, the food pattern definitely changes. And I think they will feel more prepared just before Ramadan if they've done all these sessions. Perhaps their numbers would have also come down. So maybe they're more prepared to, many of the people with diabetes don't fast. So maybe they're more ready and prepared to do their fasts this year. But also the timings change. They're all busy in praying. They're all busy in preparations. So for many of them, it is very difficult to include a session for diabetes as well. So there were many thoughts behind it, to be honest.
Well, let's get into Ramadan then. Now we're on the subject. What is your feeling around people being advised to eat during Ramadan? Of course, each person is individual to them. But I find personally that some of the messaging isn't very clear from health professionals, and I think it can be very confusing. So what are the common things that you see that your clients come to you about and that you have to kind of debunk those myths?
The thing is, Kiran, there's a lot of jargon around it, but I think a lot of it is not about religion, but it's about culture. So there's so many of my clients which they are going through a lot, like they may be on medications. Many of them might be on insulin as well, and they are adamant that they will fast. And this has nothing to do with religion, because the religion allows you, if you're not well, you can skip the fast and you can pay a certain amount to poor people. But what happens is this is the culture which is pushing them to fast. And then comes the discourse with them, discussing it with them that it is okay if you don't fast. And I think with the messaging, I would always say that someone from the mosque. I think Diabetes UK have been doing this every Ramadan, that the Imam comes up and he talks to people, and they would listen to the Imam more than me. If I'm saying do not fast, they won't like it. But if Imam is giving them, giving a background, telling them that these are the reasons why you are okay not to fast, people tend to listen to them. So one is that involvement of an Imam. Then of course, many of them are able to fast. Many of them are just on lifestyle. Many of the people are on certain medications. So coming in terms with them that what sort of a diet they should be following during Ramadan is something which we talked through. And now that you've said it, very soon I'm launching another, my consultations, one of Ramadan consultations, just for people to get ready before Ramadan.
So I'm not a Muslim by background, although I've been exposed to it in Birmingham. There's a lot of Islam culture in Birmingham, but I'm really interested to know about this conversation that you have with the imam, and also, excuse me, any cultural insensitivities here. Have you ever thought about speaking with an imam to a broader audience outside of a mosque to, say, social media, or have you been able to do that before?
It is so challenging. I'll be really honest with you. I contacted the imam in Plymouth. I'm based in Plymouth. So I contacted the imam in Plymouth, and this was more about people during Ramadan and people with, different, not necessarily diabetes, but I wanted to contact the imam in Plymouth, but I did not get any response. I emailed them few times, but I think because the imams also need to be well educated on all these, and I think the imam was not confident enough. So perhaps some sort of, this is something which needs to be done. I think that first imams need to be trained. Once imams are trained, then together we can together do something. But it's a long process and it requires a lot of funding. I'm not sure where to start from, to be honest.
I think there's probably a big thing there in terms of confidence, isn't there? And
Yes.
and the risk that an imam might take to go on social media, and how that might feel, and how that might be viewed and perceived. And I think there is probably some worries about that. I'm assuming that there might be some worries about that.
Yes, but saying that, diabetes, I've seen some of the sessions done by Diabetes UK online. So it has been done but on a large scale, like city-wise, this was my, passion and dream, that city, like if I'm in Plymouth, the imam in Plymouth is giving this message to the Muslims. So someone in Birmingham, the imam there is sitting in the mosque and giving this message to the Muslims over there. But this is not happening. It's just happening from a few of the charities through, online Facebook or YouTube.
Absolutely. It sounds like there perhaps needs to be more of a communication and a sort of a connected discussion between different communities, perhaps even across the UK to begin with. And I'm sure each country has its own different ways of dealing with it. It just reminds me of someone I met when I was traveling in Morocco, and he was fasting, but he was also not doing very well with his diabetes, and he was getting sick when he was fasting because of the diabetes. And then it was this cultural expectation that he had to keep fasting.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm still here. My phone started ringing, unfortunately.
Oh.
So yeah, like I said, so I met this gentleman, and he was really unwell, and he had to keep breaking his fast.
Yeah.
And he felt really guilty about it. And it was his cultural expectation. So then what he would do is then he would, throughout the year, then take smaller mini fasts to make up the time that he lost with the fasting period. I just think that was really fascinating, because he was putting his health at risk for trying to conform to normality. And that was because culturally it wasn't seen as acceptable to not fast.
It is not acceptable. My mom has got diabetes and she has many health conditions, and she just won't listen. Her daughter is a dietitian, but she won't listen because the culture pressure is so hard. And I think they do not accept it that it's culture. They believe that the belief is that they are able to do it. So what? This is happening to their health. They're still able to do it. So if they're able to do it, they should be doing it. This is the belief system.
I think it's a really interesting area, because it is where religion meets culture, meets health. And it probably needs more people at the table to have an even more nuanced discussion about it. So I'm just going to step away from that, and I'm going to ask a really open question, Fareeha. I'm just going to ask, who is Fareeha J? Who are you behind the dietitian?
Just a regular person, the everyday mom doing the household work, the everyday woman who has so many struggles in her life, thinking about how to balance her work life, how to balance her family life, children, kids, work, looks wise, physique wise. So all these challenges. So I'm just like any other person, and I have my lows and my highs. Generally, I'm a happy person. But there are days when I'm with women, there are all sorts of problems. And when you are after the age of 40, you've got those other hormonal changes also happening. So yes, I get my lows as well. I get depressed as well. And then I bounce back again. So I'm just as any other person.
I think that's useful to know, because often social media gives these different personas and people want to be seen in a certain way as well. And it's important for our work to be seen in a certain way. But actually, we're all humans, we're all experiencing similar emotions to other people, and we're going through similar difficulties with other parts of our lives. And we were just talking just before the recording started about the fact that I'm going for surgery next week as well, and how that's going to impact things as well. So we're all going through these things. So it's interesting that you give that message, and I think it's really good that you tell us that. Based on that and your social media then. So social media has become a very clear part of your career, and probably as a result of it, probably as part of your life. I'm assuming that you get recognized, or that people talk to you and talk to you about your social media very frequently. So take me to the start of it. What was the platform that you started with, and why did you start working with social media, and what was your thinking at the time, and when was that?
I really like talking about this because there was no thought behind it. When I qualified in 2016, very shortly, because my degree was not easy for me. As I said, we're all humans. We all go through ups and downs, and it was really challenging for me with my children, with my husband, with my housework. I found it extremely challenging to complete my degree. To be honest, it took me more years than anyone else. So it took me 6 years to get my degree. So let's not talk about that. But what?
That's all right. I did one in 7 years too, so I can understand the pain.
It was not easy. So when I qualified, I was like, I'm going to do any dietetics. I'm not going to do work. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to give quality time to my children. But very shortly, you realize that children are busy in their own lives, and I was not working. And I decided that, okay, let's make a Facebook group just for fun. But the focus would be South Asian communities. And very soon, when I started this group, within weeks, I got 50,000 followers. The number grew very quickly. And there, I realized that, there is this gap. There is this big gap of knowledge about diet, nutrition, lifestyle for South Asians. Maybe it's not accessible to them. Maybe the already given information is not culturally appropriate. Whatever it was, there was this gap. I saw people, just joining in and with 110 questions. And then then I felt passionate about it. And then I thought that, okay, I'm also from the South Asian background. Yes, let me fill in this gap. And now it has, to be honest, now it has become my mission in life, that I can build that bridge, that knowledge bridge for the South Asian people around diet, nutrition, and lifestyle. And this is how it all started. And all my clients, whatever clients I get, I don't do any advertising. I don't do nothing. It's all because of my social media.
Well, I think that's the power of social media, isn't it? When you reach a following, there must be an inflection point that you notice at some point. Suddenly it went from, I was doing this, to suddenly I don't need to do advertising in a sense, because I'm showing what I can do, and many people are viewing it. But I just think there's a really key thing that you just said there, that there is a big gap. And even I have noticed this, and this is me coming in and talking about Mahi Health and doing what we're doing in 2023, 2024, the same gap still exists. In fact, so I don't specifically specialize in South Asian diets, but we cover all ethnicities. But I've noticed the biggest need for South Asians still. Those are the clients that are coming still 8 years after you started your group. I think this gap still exists. About the group, and initially in the early days, where did people come from? Were they from Pakistan? Were they from the UK? Were there a mix of different countries? Where are they? Where are your followers watching you from now?
When we look at the Facebook analytics, it's 99 countries. Can you believe it? It's 99 countries. Sometimes I get appointments from Japan. They don't even know about me. It's really strange. South Asians are everywhere. So some just from Japan.
They have the ability to spread out. I think it's because on the West Coast and Pakistan and Gujarat and India, I think from their culture in the past, people moved out.
Yeah, but yeah, initially it was from Pakistan because I'm from Pakistan, and I think I was doing my videos in Urdu. So I think that way I got that people
There's
following.
probably a very big gap there,
Yeah.
actually,
Yes, yeah. Oh, a lot.
with
What
the different
how
languages.
they're too much entangled in their myths. This is the major gap. Like there's so
Uh,
much, the again the culture is coming back in. But so and so said, but grandma said this, but our ancestors used to do this, and there's so much entangled in that. But yes, I got quite a lot of followers from Pakistan. Then if I look at my analytics, number two is UK. So the rest of the followers are UK, and then followed by all other countries.
okay.
Yeah, yeah.
On those myths, what is the most infamous myth that you know around diabetes and South Asian diets?
But there's so many, Kiran. Specifically with diabetes, I think they're too much focused on specific foods. Like I'll have bitter gourd, I'll have juice of bitter gourd, and it will magically solve my problems. Or I was astounded by one of my clients saying that they eat cattle feet. Cattle feet. They eat, um, and this is the extent of the myths
Yeah.
I just want to highlight over here. And there's so many. Most of them are drinks, and most of them are based on the belief that if they start having so and so foods, the diabetes will finish. And when I get clients, many of them come with the expectation that I'm going to do some magic and this condition is going to go forever.
Uh,
So this is a
I
big.
think I think with illnesses, we're often thinking about having something to try and fix the illness. It's sort of like a pill for an ill, a quick cure, a quick fix, the elixir in a nice liquid or solution.
Yes,
But diabetes is an interesting one, isn't it?
yes,
Because it's often related to the foods that we're putting in to
yes,
us. And
yes.
there is no quick fix either. And often it requires some time, lots of little changes. What do you say to those people who are saying that they're trying this or trying that? How do you change their viewpoint on this?
Very difficult. I never stopped them. I asked them to continue what they're having because they've got some specific feeling of bond towards those foods as well, because grandma told them or mom used to have it. So, but I try to convince them that along with that, this is not going to do it on its own, and you need to follow so and so, follow lifestyle, whatever is part of that consultation. I trade really carefully on this because they've got the sentimental attachment to all these foods as well. So most of the times I say to them that if you want to, you can carry on doing this, but I would say that do this, this, and that as well.
Mm. Somehow you've managed to bring, I think you've managed to bring nuance to conversation in social media, which I think is really, really difficult. The things that pick up the views, the thing that people latch onto is a really quick eat 5 foods and you'll be fine
Yeah.
type messages. How do you think you've managed to travel through social media and navigate it to continue to keep providing a nuanced message?
Kiran, I could. I've many of my followers. They message me, and they want me to get millions of followers. I don't know. They've got this attachment, and they ask me to do such videos, and they send me examples of different influencers. That why don't you make a video like this, and then you'll get this many followers. And so yes, if you and me, we want to do it, we can also gain lots of followers, but just by uh, but this is what makes us different. We are health professionals, and we have to follow a certain code of law. And I believe that this makes me different. Many of my followers, many of my clients say to me that we will believe. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but whatever you say, because we know that you are truthful to what you're saying, we believe what you're saying. We know that you and this, I get this all the time. We trust you. I get emails saying that the reason why I'm going to buy this program of you is because I trust you. That's all. I know that you will always give me evidence-based guidance.
Comes down to trust, doesn't it?
Yes.
I've noticed that. How do health professionals also make sure that they get their message across and make sure that they're getting clients that are going to get support and the right support? And I think it is around trust. That's a really core component of it.
It is. It is.
Okay, I'm going to ask you some things around foods, and we're going to just do some quick fire ones around foods.
Okay.
What's the most favorite breakfast that is unhealthy that people are eating right now that you wish all South Asians would stop having?
They love parathas. They love
Yeah.
parathas.
For breakfast?
Yes, yes, for breakfast.
Okay.
So the very popular one is which I don't really mind, the parathas and eggs. So I'm happy with the eggs. The parathas also, it is further discussing it with them that how they prepare the paratha. Paratha can be so many carbs at a time because the amounts which they have, that's also a thing. Then the size of the paratha and the amount of ghee they put in the paratha. And but then they have eggs. So this is the discussion which I do with them, that carry on with your eggs. Why not go for a roti? Or if you're having a paratha, why not go for a half size or reduce the amount of ghee or oil you're putting in? That's another discussion we have. But this is the most popular. The ones which I see is that paratha ande, paratha eggs are the most popular.
If someone came to you and said, that's it, I don't want to have parathas anymore, I want to have something else, or what would you say if they were to say yes to anything that you would say to, which is most people won't say yes to anything. What would you say this is the best breakfast you could have?
The thing is, I always ask them, and that gives them ownership as well. I'm like, what would you like? What would you like if you're not having, parathas? What would you like? But what I say to them that you can have a variety of breakfasts. You can have paratha as well if you want, but not having it every day. So paratha which will they have once a week, and then you can include roti in your diet, in your breakfast. Then you can have bread in your breakfast. Then you can have oats in your breakfast, and you don't have to have porridge oats. You can have oat masala in your breakfast, and there I provide them with those recipes as well. So it really depends. If I say to them, and I say this to them, then what you have to decide, because what if I say to you that have oat masala and you don't like oats? What's the point? So this is where I engage with them and I discuss with them what do they like, and then I come up with ideas.
Okay. And is the dietary patterns similar in the UK and Pakistan, or do you see some variance with what they're doing?
Most of the time they're the same. Most of the time, yes, they are the same because the culture remains the same. So yes, if many of them have started having cereal, but then again, the clients which I see in Pakistan, they're also having cereal. So it's almost the same.
Okay, fine. And what about lunch? What would you say to someone who is trying to take a good healthy lunch in a South Asian style? What would you say is a good way to start thinking about their lunch?
So usually most of them are on the go. Even if they're not working, they want their dinner to be it more elaborate, and lunch is always on the go. You would think that sandwiches, but when I'm speaking with my South Asian clients, they don't want to have sandwiches. So what can they have if they're not having roti, and if they're not having their sabzi and salan, and so what can they have? In this, what I discuss with them is, let's think about plant-based proteins. The lunch is always around plant-based proteins. Think about lentils, pulses, beans, chickpeas, kidney beans, and what we which is this is very popular among them, and they love it. So what I say to them, that if you want something on the go, you have prepare something which we call a chana chaat or a lobia chaat, which is a combination of different vegetables along with these chickpeas, kidney beans, pulses, whatever you decide, mix them up with all the South Asian spices. And this is something which they don't need roti for it, they don't need rice for it, they can just have it, spoon it out, and have it as a snack and it quick. So they'll get their protein, they'll get their fiber, they'll get their extra nutrients from the vegetables as well. And then I will always, with discussion, we can add yogurt to it or anything which they want to add. But this is something which we come up with, and which is extremely popular. And most of the time, most of my clients agree to it, and they love this change. And that includes many of my clients are very meat-based. Their diets are meat-based as well. So including something plant-based for lunch makes a big difference in their diet overall as well.
I love that. You didn't just give me one answer. You just gave me a whole range of ingredients and things that they can have. And I think perhaps that's a really good message to come across, that people who are diabetic think that they can only eat certain foods, but actually the variety of foods that they can eat is huge. It's really, really huge. You just mentioned around meat there.
Yeah.
And I know some South Asian diets are very vegetable based, some are more meat heavy. What is the difficulties that you're seeing with people who are eating more meat heavy diets?
So there is a clear difference. When I see my clients from India, like they are more plant-based. So they'll be eating more of vegetables, they'll be eating lentils, pulses. When I'm seeing my clients from the Pakistani origin, they're eating more of the meats. And to the extent that they'll have, they'll have kebabs at breakfast. They'll have shami kebabs at breakfast, and then lunch again meat-based, and then dinner again meat-based. And all of them, most of them, obviously, most of them come to me because of their overweight, but they have cholesterol issues, they've got blood pressure issues. So this is something which we can have a discussion around. And most of the times, they find it really difficult. It's like especially the men. The women are always they get convinced and they're like, we'll try. But with the men, they don't want to change. They're like, we want our meat. So another thing which we come up with is that, okay, if you don't want to, you still want to have your meat, I reduce the amount of meat in each meal they have. So they're still having their meat, but we're reducing the amounts.
It's a real cultural thing there, men and their meat. They want to have their meat. And even when you go out for an Indian, or when I go out for an Indian, someone says, "Oh, what meat are you going to have?" Like, I'll have paneer and I might have some chicken. Like, like it's people are very fixated on that idea, and I think there's something around it being masculine in a way.
And this again is a cultural thing. It has to change. It is absolutely.
So the DESA 12-week program. It's a group program. Let's hear a bit more about it. So tell me a bit more about how many people come onto the program and a little bit more about their journey through the program.
So I try not to have a very big group, because then I can't focus on each. Even with 5 or 6 people, there are almost 5 or 6 people every time. I can sometimes feel quite overwhelmed, because each one of them has to share something. For the program, once a week, it's just 1 hour. And if someone starts telling the story, they keep going on. And so sometimes I feel quite overwhelmed how to, manage.
It's hard, isn't it?
Yes.
It's a little bit difficult sometimes when one person.
And they're really passionate about it, and they want to get that message across. And I understand it's their problem. They're going through it. So, but then again, this time the third cohort is 6 people. So the first 2 were 5 people. This time it's 6 people. I got 2 more other people as well. But then I said, I can't do it. And then I said that when I'm doing it after Ramadan, then you can join the group. But how it works is that initially they become a bit frazzled, because just in the first session, I say to them that, most of these sessions which you would attend, they would first tell you what diabetes is, what are its risk factors, and all those sorts, and what's happening in your body, or the science behind it. I leave that to the second or the third session. From the first day on, I start giving them targets. I'm like, you will be thinking, why is she doing this? You will know the answers in the coming sessions, but let's start it. And they're like, okay, I was like, start today. The weeks, the 12
I think it's like quick wins, isn't it? You want them to start implementing straight away. That's where you're going to get results.
Exactly. This is what I say to them. I was like, so I'll tell you what diabetes is. I'll tell you the risk factors, but we'll do that later. Let's work on our targets. So I first will start with the protein targets and discuss about the carbs, depends on the person. Their physical activity, I give them targets on their physical activity. So the first session is done. In the second session, then I give them their hydration targets. And then we talk about carbs, and this is how we get on with each session. And then my phone, some of them keep on sending their pictures of their food. Some of them won't. It depends. This group is really active. Since yesterday, I'm like...
getting loads of photos.
Yeah. And then they want my response, but they're taking it away. And then I record a message.
But the feedback is so fast then, isn't it? It's like instantaneous. I know your reply may not be instantaneous, but
Yes.
they send a picture of a food and then you critique it and
Yes.
then they can improve on that.
Yes. Yes. It's so.
And then you see it. I'm sure you see the change.
Yes. Yes. They themselves, many of the people from the past cohorts, they were well educated on diets and all. They already knew quite a bit, but they said that we didn't realize that how many things we are missing. And sometimes for me as well, this group, I learn many things as well. But also it gives me the opportunity to, all these different foods which they show. I gives me so many ideas as well, which I never, which every picture gives me a new idea.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I love seeing the photos of all the foods and then seeing how it gradually changes over time. I think that gradual change is really fascinating. And then you start to see it in their numbers. I'd like
Yeah.
to know a bit more about the power of the group. So you've been through 2 groups so far.
Yes.
What is it about a group that makes it special, that it's a group?
First of all, Kiran, it's just me. Probably I enjoy doing groups. Sometimes I feel a bit when I'm doing one-to-ones, you'll be surprised, but it's daunting for me sometimes. With group, I think all the focus is not just on me, because if one person is speaking, then the other person is speaking. Everyone is giving their own experiences. Also, it's not just dietitian focused; it's all group focused, isn't it? Everyone is giving. So I enjoy it more. And I'm as far when I compare it with one-to-ones, I do one-to-one consultations which are for 3 months, one consultation every month. With this, the engagement is far more, because again, now I'm speaking to you. My phone is still buzzing, so they're talking between each other, and you will see that they'll be learning from each other. And as I said, the previous cohorts have said that they've learned so much, they've come so far, that this group has made it. If it was just one-to-one, perhaps they would have been waiting for the second consultation and then the third consultation, and that's it. But this is like constant. So I love it, they love it, and I see results, which even motivates me to do it even more.
I think it's that, isn't it? The rate of learning that
Yeah.
can happen within a group is really increased significantly. And then they start to teach each other. And then you can kind of sit back and just be like,
Yes.
wow, look at this. They're all learning from each other. One person's got this perspective, another person's got this perspective. They gain new insights. And it's the depth of learning. I think people often just think about learning about nutrition or other parts of their lifestyle as just do this, do that, learn this, learn that.
Yes.
But actually, like with many subjects, the more you learn, the less you know, and then you have to go
Yes.
deeper.
Oh,
The
yes.
more nuance you get, the more power you have with your
Yes.
meals and also with other parts of your lifestyle too.
Yes.
So I think it's really powerful,
Yes.
that
It is.
part of it.
It
And it's
is.
self-reinforcing, isn't it? You've noticed that you want to do more of it as well. I love groups too. I think it's really, really good fun. I used to do that a lot in the NHS.
Yeah. Oh, yes, they should. Yeah, they should. I think they do it. I remember when I used to work for the NHS I did some work with the NHS, and we used to meet the same group twice. So one week, and then we used to meet the same group second time. And the second week when we used to meet, they used to be so relaxed. They used to come up with questions. They used to really love it. They used to chat between each other. So yes, groups do work, and the group people who used to come in used to offer them tea, biscuits. Yes, in the diabetes.
Oh, I've seen some amazing diabetes events. I went to one in Northeast London at GP surgery, and a few of the charities were there, the big ones. And there was the food table, and I took a picture of it. It was just orange juice and biscuits, and there was one bowl of fruit, but no one had touched it. But it was only grapes in there anyway. And patients would come in and say, "Oh, I can't have the fruit because I'm diabetic," and then they were having a biscuit and a cup of tea. So there's a lot of misinformation and confusion out there. But I do think that one of the things is that we need to, as professionals, whether in the NHS or privately, when people come into events, community events, we need to show the foods that they can eat.
Yeah.
If we can't do it there, then it's very hard to get a message across, because we're sort of reinforcing that this is normal, and then what you're going to eat is going to be not normal. And that's really not right as well.
That's a very good point. Once I did this, there was this online session, but the women were in the kitchen, and they had decided the menu, and we had discussed the menu already, and they came up with the healthy foods, and then they sat down, and then I was not there, but we discussed how they will make a portion plate. So first they made that food, they put it up, and then they created those portions, and it made such a big difference. They said that they've learned so much today, how to cook, what to cook, and then how to arrange a plate with vegetables, proteins, and carbs all together. So as you
Yeah,
see, once the food is in front of them, they would learn far more.
absolutely. And they've gone through the process. It's that
Yeah.
depth of
Yeah.
it all. It's not just having the food in front of you and eating it.
Yeah.
It's actually sourcing it, preparing it,
Exactly.
making it look enticing to eat, and
Yeah.
then eating it. It's that
Yeah.
whole process.
There's a lot
Um,
of resources involved, and this can be quite hard, but achievable.
what do you feel is the biggest difficulty that stops people from maintaining the gains that they've had after the programs or the time that they've had with you in the past as well?
The major, they want instant results. Like even after 3 months, I say to them that give yourself 3 years, and this is
Yeah,
too much for them because
yeah,
and then I say to them that give your life
yeah,
to it, because so this is something which is always a problem, that they want to see, like they would what. I've been trying to lose weight. It's 2 weeks already. I've not
yeah.
lost this. I've
I
not.
see that as well. I always have to tell my clients at
Yeah.
the 1 month stage,
Yeah.
this is when we'll probably start to see
Yes.
insights. And at the start, I say, you will see nothing on the scales for the first month for most people. So
Yeah.
don't worry.
Yeah.
And even then, I have to hold my nerve. I'm starting to get a bit jittery. When is this going to happen? And I know every single time it works. So
Yeah.
but initially, I'm like holding my nerve. I know that what I'm recommending and what
Yeah.
they're doing is the right thing. And then eventually things stack on top of each other. I think people have got to remember the habit stacking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
forget what you've already been doing because it hasn't worked. It has been working,
Yeah.
but we just need to add on the extra thing to tip you
Exactly.
over the balance.
Yeah. But I think it is hard to being consistent as a human, like as all of us, being consistent on something is really hard, and especially when you can't see the results in due time. So I think this is the major issue which I face. And when I say this is the shocks which I get. I say to them that it's not 3 months, it's 3 years. You have to give it.
Yeah,
And the looks which I get, they're not
yeah.
very happy about it.
Things take time. One of the things that I try and instill with clients and patients is that this becomes your life and it shouldn't be difficult. So how do we get this to just become what you do every day without thinking that this is what I'm doing temporarily to fix myself?
Yeah, and this is what I say. This is what I always say. It's not a diet. It's a lifestyle. You have to adopt it.
Yeah,
And you don't have to think that you are doing something and when it's the start and when is the end. This is you. This is me. If I'm going for exercise, Kiran, a question which I'm always asked is that when I discuss with them that this sort of exercise you need to be doing, you need to be running or whatever we decide upon. Okay, so they're making notes and they're like, okay, till when? Till when am I supposed to do this exercise? I'm like, forever, for life. So
and then what did they say? And then they say forever. What do you mean forever? I can't do this. And then what do you say?
yeah. And then all the lifestyle, you have to make it a part of your life, do it every day until it becomes your habit, until you see that when you're not doing it, you're missing out on something. And this feeling will only come if you do it for a specific period of time. Once when you and I'll I'll give my own example that for me, I've always been very lazy as far as exercise has been concerned. I've been going on and off, doing it now, not doing it again. But now when I look at myself, I've been doing for the past 1 year, and now I think that the day when I don't do exercise, I'm like, I'm missing out on something. Oh, I've not done
So
it. I feel very good.
I've seen on your Instagram, you're doing your runs. Is it your 5K runs? Did you do couch to 5K?
I started
Okay.
training myself on couch to 5K, yes. And then
And are
I
you
do,
doing park runs?
yes, I do the park runs.
You do the park runs?
Yeah.
Okay. So you've now managed to get something consistent. What is it from your view that's different now compared to 3 years ago with your own exercise habits?
With me, I think it's something personal, but with me, I think because, as I mentioned earlier as well, because the hormonal changes which were coming within my body and I think it's some mental health as well. I think that my mental health was also being affected. And I saw the difference that when I started moving and when I started exercising, my body, how I looked, that definitely that also improved, but also some of the symptoms which I was getting, the hormonal symptoms which I was getting, those also improved, but also my mental health
Oh,
also improved. So I think for
okay.
me, it was the stage of my life I am in. And I think when I was younger, I was not having any issues, no hormonal problems, everything, whatever I'm eating, I'm digesting it, no issues. I'm still smart. So I was like, exercise, no exercise, I'm fine, I'm chilling. Change came after a
Now
certain.
things are changing. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's insightful. So you were doing the exercise, you were noticing improvements from things that were making you feel pain or discomfort beforehand, and then you're feeling better afterwards.
Yeah.
I find that sometimes, and I'm going to challenge you a little bit on this, I find that sometimes that isn't enough. So people get the benefit and then they just feel great. And then 2, 3 days go by and it's the motivation piece to get back and moving.
Yeah.
What do you feel? Is there anything that you've done differently at the start of that piece? So when you know that you're going to feel better, but you just need to go from nothing to moving again and making that a consistent habit. Have you done anything different? Just out of interest.
Like, I'll give it's just, you have to be uncomfortable. Let me tell you
Yeah.
one. And you have to put yourself in discomfort. And like, for example, when I recently I went for a holiday to Pakistan and I spent 2 weeks there. I didn't move. I didn't do no exercise. I ate everything. And this is the mental frame I had went with. I was like, I'll do whatever. I'll have everything. When I came back, I was saying to myself that I can never move ever in my life. I won't be able to do it because 2 weeks I've not done anything. And this was making myself uncomfortable. I literally pushed myself and I went to the gym and I thought that I won't be able to pick a dumbbell, a 2 kilo dumbbell, because this is how unfit I felt. So putting myself into discomfort, and the message
And then did you lift it? Did you lift the 2 kilo dumbbell?
yesterday I did my body weight. So
Good. Oh my gosh, that's really good.
we underestimate, and this is the message I want to give across, that please don't underestimate yourself. Push yourself and see the magic happen. And once that magic happens, you'll be so proud and pleased with yourself. Honestly,
I think it's the message that women can be strong too. And I think that's really key. Women often don't feel that they can be physically strong, but they can as well.
Yes.
It takes time and effort. That's why the men are in the gym every day. It takes time and effort to do it. So the women, I'm seeing more women doing that as well. And they're getting the rewards from it.
Yes. So yesterday I did my body weight and I was like, oh yes, I can do it. I can do it. It's nothing that we can't do as women.
Yeah. Well, what do you feel about that thing? You mentioned you went to Pakistan and that you didn't do anything.
No.
Is that an issue for Pakistanis generally?
Yes.
Why is that? What is it around women and being able to exercise more? Is it because there's less space? Is it a cultural thing? Is it a mixture of everything?
I think if you specifically talk about Pakistan, I think there are many issues over there. Going out for women alone, going to the gym alone. I think that's an issue over there. But then there is a mental. They'll have time for everything. But when it comes to, and this is everywhere, it's not just for women in Pakistan. And when it comes for time for exercise, I'm too tired or I'm too. So it's the same mentality everywhere. In Pakistan, I think this issue is over here as well. I think the mental, it's everywhere, to be honest. I can't say that specific, these will have specific, but they have got their issues of women not going on to be able to, like over here, I go on a run. I try not to go in the dark, but I go on a run. In Pakistan, women can't go for a run outside.
Yeah, they can't do that.
Yeah.
So there's much more limited space. And I think that there is a lot of freedom that we get in the UK that perhaps we don't realize how much opportunity and freedom there is.
Keep on saying this and even within their homes, most of them, if they're living in joint family systems, they won't have the freedom. When I speak to my clients, I say to them that, do something on YouTube, there's so many exercises. Even that is something. I don't have a TV in my own room and I can't do it in the living room. So because this is a joint family, my father is there. So there's so many that it's not that easy. It's not easy.
There are lots of barriers to that. And I think that must be considered. People must know about that.
Yeah.
And actually that for me becomes a bigger thing, that it's not about having the motivation or the knowledge. Is sometimes the environment is very difficult to even exercise. And once we change environments and things start to happen more organically and people can do more things.
Kiran, I want to give you an example. It's not from women in Pakistan. Women in UK, many times I've done appointments in the car. Women are in the car. They don't know where to go. They don't know where to sit and do the appointments.
My client one of my clients was a woman. We did 90% of our appointments in her car.
Yeah, I've done that many times, many of them. It's just because, they don't know where to. Sometimes their husbands are judging them. So many of them are saying that our husbands don't know that we're doing this appointment.
That's it. My client didn't know. Her husband didn't know.
Yeah. So that has happened. Apart from that, okay, there's so many people in my house. My in-laws are there. There's too much noise. They're too much nosy. They want to do everything. So there's so many barriers. And imagine the comfort level of that person doing that consultation from a car. There's sound, and sometimes I get agitated. I was like, why is she not listening to me? But there's so many other things happening in her life. It's the phone is buzzing. Someone is calling.
Why is that? What? That's a really interesting point. I never really picked up on that because obviously one of my clients is in the car as well doing her appointments.
Yeah.
Why the car? Do you think that's the only safe space that they've got away, and then that people don't know that they are doing something else? Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. This is, and I'm saying to you, it has happened so many times to me because where should I go? Where do I do my appointment? Okay, where do I do my consultation? Can I do it in my living room? No, my in-laws are there. Am I doing it in my room? My children are bothering me. My husband is judging me. Where do I go? Okay, I'm going for a walk. But in reality, they're going and sitting in the car and doing this. I'm going to get some groceries, but they're sitting in the car and doing this appointment. So, yeah.
Now, this is something around gender roles. And yes, we are stereotyping, but I think it's the patterns that we're seeing here.
Yes.
I see that women are more health seeking, but more so than that, women are more able to believe that they can actually make a change.
Yes.
And I see it not just in my medical appointments, but also in my diabetes lifestyle appointments. All the same in that women present earlier. So it looks like women are having more problems, but actually, no, they're trying to actively prevent and be more proactive. Yes. Men are often waiting, they're hoping for it to go away. It'll just disappear. They just dither, and then eventually becomes a bigger problem.
Yes.
And then there's a bigger mountain to climb.
Yeah.
But also, I don't know, I see it with the clients who aren't coming on the program, who explore it, and they think that, I just think health investments are a really interesting arena. People will spend a lot of money to get on a flight, to go to another country and go on holiday.
Oh, yes.
But it's the men more so than the women. I notice this. It's like an unwillingness to invest in their health, whereas women will naturally do that more. And I don't know the answer behind that. I'm sure there's some biological reasoning behind that as well, because we see it culturally across lots and lots of different cultures. I'm sure there's a cultural aspect too. But I don't know if you've got any insights into that, why you feel that there's a difference.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Most of my clients are women. And again, I want to point out a thing that some of the men which I've got, I don't know if it is culture. I don't know. They don't want to accept it. I don't know the answer, as you said. But it has happened, I think, 2 or 3 times that I'm doing a consultation with the man and he is there and his wife is here, like on the camera. I'm speaking to his wife.
I'm having that as well.
Yeah. And that man, I can hear him. Some of bits I can hear, some I can't, because obviously he's in that corner of the room. But I'm communicating through the wife.
But I think it's I see it as a both gender problem, because sometimes the wife is literally dragging the man and like, sit here and stay until this is over. And then other times I sort of see that the wife is not even allowing the man to have his own voice, the husband to have their voice. So I see that as well a little bit. But I'm just sort of like, let him talk. That's genuinely why it's like, stop talking, let him talk, let's hear him out.
Yeah.
But I do often feel that that is a two-way thing, in that both in a couple, I think both choose that. The man is very happy to allow the woman to speak and take that role, and then he can be passive. But unfortunately, with diabetes and other health conditions, you can't be passive. This is about you and your health. You need to be in front of the camera.
Yes. So
you need to take the limelight. I think if you're the client, yeah. But I think that's interesting couple dynamics as well. There's a lot there, isn't there? There's big differences in gender. Okay, we're going to wrap up soon. So what I want to know is, what do you feel future is for diabetes care that's coming next for South Asians?
I believe we need more. The only future I can see is because we see the numbers are rising more and more for South Asians. The diabetes numbers are rising every day. I want the only way forward is that we get more of, culturally wi- people who we're giving out more sessions. NHS is playing a role, more one-to-one appointments to South Asians, and that is the only way forward. Otherwise, numbers will keep on rising. But there's so much nuance to this, because many times NHS, I'll specifically say NHS has been offering many. I've been doing them as well, offering free sessions. South Asian communities taking that for granted, not attending those sessions. There's so many sides to it. So offering should be more, but then again, convincing those people to take those offerings is also a task. Uh, I don't know. I don't. It's very complicated. But at present, I think more and more dietitians, nutritionists, healthcare professionals should be trained to so that they can counteract with people from all communities, not necessarily South Asians.
I think it's really, really nuanced, and there's a lot of different aspects to it, from how people grow up and their experiences of food from there, all the way to them when they're getting unwell, related to their lifestyles, food being part of that, and then accessing services, and then having the belief that something can actually improve and get better with support as well. And what I'm seeing in the industry is that we have more nutritionists, we have more dietitians, we have a combination of both that can support patients to be healthier in whatever health issues that they have. But then they're not given the job opportunities, and the right funding is not available for people to get support. And I do think that people want more support than what is available. I also feel that the support is too broad and it's not nuanced enough, and it doesn't look at the individual, and we have to follow too much protocol. But this is NHS. But I think outside the NHS, people are starting to find different ways of doing things better, such as the program that you're developing. And I think the reason why you're developing these programs is because there's a clear gap, there's a clear need that people aren't getting from other spaces.
Yes. But I really want to point out one thing over here, that sometimes we all the responsibility on healthcare professionals, on NHS or anything. But here I want to point out to the people, to the public as well. They need to take responsibility as well. When I was doing these sessions with one of the primary care, they asked me to do I got this project funding, and I was doing with primary care. I was working, doing small group consultations and meetings and all this training, and the numbers they were not taking it seriously, because it was free of charge. So every week we used to meet up, and I was so passionate about it. And who were two of them were still, engaged, and their numbers did drop. But like, it started off with 10 people, they're not turning up. I'm calling them. So yes, the health professionals, there is this side to it, but I think that people also need to take some responsibility as well if they've been giving us free service.
I agree. I think this is it's a person. It's not a condition where you can have a tablet and it gets fixed. This is a condition where if you want to be healthy, it needs to come from within, and you can get support from people. But ultimately, the actions are going to be taken by your arms and your legs and your mind, and not anyone else's. So people have to be, but I also feel that people need to be empowered to do that. There is this thing about free service and what happens when we don't pay for something. And unfortunately, the value of it is less seen as less if we don't pay for it. And I think that's something around money, and money being the energy of where we put our time to. And if people do put even a token of money, then it ascribes value to what they're doing.
I think that,
And I think this whole thing about the NHS it's very, very difficult, because we call it the National Health Service, but in reality, this is a national medical service, national sickness service. It's meant to be there for when people get sick. But now we've noticed in the last 40 years that people are getting sick because of their lifestyles, and that what we can do from a health economics basis is actually try and protect their health, to try and prevent them from getting sick. And then, of course, that reduces the cost on medical interventions, and then government costs as well, because we're providing free service. But it's very, very difficult. It's as if we're developing two services here. We're developing a health gain, health prevention, health promotion service, and a medical sickness service. and they're kind of interlinked. And I think that's very, very difficult for people to see that as
Very
well.
difficult. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay, so final comments, Fareeha. What would you like to tell viewers and listeners who have been watching this about anything that you're doing right now and anything into the future that they need to know about in terms of their health as well?
As far as my only message will be as for your health, as we said that you live in your body, prioritize yourself. This is another thing which I wanted to discuss, but we forgot that women don't prioritize themselves a lot, especially South Asian women. So my message will be that prioritize yourself. Self-care is very important. Think about very small things. Are you hydrated? Are you looking after your sleep? Are you eating well? Did you have your two to three pieces of fruit in a day? Very small things. They're not. We're not asking you to do something drastic and big. And just follow these very simple rules, and you will see. Again, as I say, you will see magic happen. So yeah, that's my message.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure having you on today. And perhaps we'll get you on again. It'll be good to have another follow-up discussion. There's so much more that we could talk about.